Hi, I'm Dr. Ronald W. Satz, founder and chair of the International Society of Unified Science. This is part 2 of my paper, The Case Against Modern Physics. Number 10, the two-capacitor problem. Conventional theory says that capacitors, which are known to be neutral overall, have positive electric charges on one plate and an equal number of negative charges on the other plate. Consider an electrical circuit with two capacitors in parallel, connected by an initially open switch. The first capacitor is charged by a voltage source. The second capacitor is discharged by short-circuiting its plates. The voltage source is then disconnected and the switch is closed. What happens? Conventional theory says that there must be charge conservation, and so some of the charge leaves the first capacitor and moves to the second capacitor, the total charge remaining the same as that initially in the first capacitor, and the voltage of the two capacitors equilibrating. Unfortunately for the theory, this violates energy conservation, where the final voltage of the two capacitors is considerably lower than what it would be were energy conservation to hold. Of course, the conventional theorists say that the missing energy is simply radiated away. Really? Where's the proof? The reciprocal system upholds energy conservation here. There are no charges involved, and hence no charge conservation. There is an increase in the number of electrons, massless and chargeless, taking part, because some of the electrons, again massless and chargeless, in the connecting circuit between the capacitors flow into the second capacitor, as well as some of the original electrons in the first capacitor. Therefore, at the end of the process, the voltage of the two capacitors is higher than that calculated using the conventional equations, and thus there is indeed energy conservation. The authors confirm these deductions by experiment. See reference 16 for all the details, including the mathematics. Number 11, magnetism. Conventional theory says that the Coulombic electric charges of the moving electrons in matter are the cause of all magnetic phenomena, even including those of magnetostatics. But conventional theory has no explanation for many of the features of diamagnetism, paramagnetism, and ferromagnetism. For example, consider a GUI balance which has a horizontal electromagnet. When the electromagnet is turned on, a diamagnetic specimen, initially between the poles, moves away from the magnet vertically, whereas a paramagnetic specimen, initially above or below the poles, moves toward the space between the poles vertically. Conventional theory has no explanation for this perpendicular effect, but the reciprocal system does. Actual magnetic charges exist and are two-dimensional rotational vibrations. A magnetic charge is the two-dimensional analog of the one-dimensional rotational vibration of the electric charge. The horizontal forces of the north and south poles of the electromagnet cancel, so they cause no horizontal motion of the specimen. The second dimension of magnetism then becomes effective in our reference system, and so the specimen moves vertically. Our ordinary Cartesian reference system can directly represent just one dimension of a multidimensional motion. Conventional physics has various theories to explain ferromagnetism, including the Heisenberg electron exchange theory and the Heitler-London theory. Neither can be used to compute the values of the magnetic properties of matter. The reciprocal system, by contrast, provides a complete set of calculations. See reference 15. And see reference 11 for a compendium of the space-time dimensions and natural unit values of physical quantities, including all electric and magnetic quantities. Magnetic quantities, which are analogous to electric quantities, have the dimensions of the corresponding electric quantities multiplied by t over s, where t equals time and s equals space. 12. Stellar energy generation. The conventional theory of stellar energy generation is that four hydrogen atoms combine to form one helium atom, the change in mass between the reactants and product being converted to energy. Stars' later stages of evolution are also said to have similar fusion reactions using elements of high atomic number. But there are numerous problems with this theory. A. The output energy of the O and B classes of stars is so enormous that the hydrogen fuel cannot last for long. And so stars of these classes are thought to be young. But this is contradicted by the observation that these stars exist within galaxies or within galactic clusters, which means that they are actually old. Young stars may exist only in globular clusters or as a result of a recent supernova explosion within the galaxy of an old star, which creates a new white dwarf star and a new red giant. But these are just fragments of the original. Globular clusters eventually merge into the galactic plane, becoming galactic clusters as the stars continue to age. Note, the relatively few O and B stars found in globular clusters can be explained as captured stragglers from previous galactic events. B. The hydrogen to helium conversion process cannot possibly account for the amazing energy output of the quasars and the centers of active galaxies like Seyfert galaxies. C. The output of stars on the main sequence is quite steady and controlled. This is contrary to what we observe in the known hydrogen fusion process, the hydrogen bomb. D. The greater kinetic energy and temperature of atoms in stars should result in more fragmentation, not more consolidation. E. The hydrogen atom is just as stable as the helium atom at high temperatures, and therefore just as probable. There is therefore no reason per se for hydrogen atoms to combine to form helium. And F. Experiments designed to detect neutrinos created as a side effect of the hydrogen fusion process have usually found far fewer neutrinos than expected originally from the theory. Of course, the theory has been patched since. The reciprocal system explanation of stellar energy generation is that heavy elements in the stellar core fission. And by the way, they fission by means of the kinetic energy of the atoms toward the center of the star. This is the same explanation that conventional physics and the reciprocal system use to explain the heat generated in the cores of planets. This is radioactivity in the center of the Earth. The only difference, of course, is in the scale. All the details in reference 1 through reference 8 and reference 10. 13. Stellar explosions. White dwarfs, pulsars, quasars, radio galaxies. The universe is a very violent place. Supernovae create nebulae and white dwarfs or pulsars. Exploding galaxies create quasars and radio galaxies. Conventional theory has a tough time explaining all these events. The reciprocal system says that type 1 supernovae occur when a hot star reaches a certain temperature or mass limit. These occur fairly regularly in any galaxy, and really they're quite all alike. By contrast, most type 2 supernovae occur only in the older and larger galaxies. These are due to the attainment of an isotopic mass limit, essentially an age limit, not just a temperature or size limit. Conventional theory says that old stars settle down to a white dwarf, but this is based on the pure assumption that red giants are old rather than new, as claimed by the reciprocal system, because red giants are often found together with white dwarfs, which means that they originated jointly. White dwarfs, pulsars, and quasars are all very dense. The best that conventional theory can say is that this is due to degenerate matter, collapsed atoms leaving just neutrons plus some electrons, and therefore neutron stars, when the star's fuel runs out. But spectroscopy will eventually show that these stars are composed of normal atoms. The reciprocal system says that in both white dwarfs and pulsars there is an inverse density gradient, so helium will quite naturally appear on the surface with hydrogen underneath. Whereas in a red giant, there is much empty space between the atoms, and a white dwarf or pulsar, there is much empty time, hence the inversion. Eventually, nebulae condense to red giants, which in turn condense back into stars in the main sequence, and white dwarfs expand into stars on the main sequence. Pulsars have a translational velocity which, if sufficient, may cause them to leave the galaxy. Quasars are essentially just very big pulsars. Conventional theory still has no explanation for the existence of quasars and radio galaxies associated with active galaxies. Currently, black holes are hypothesized to somehow explain the energy output of such entities, but this contradicts the theory that nothing can escape a black hole, not even light. The Reciprocal system says that quasars and radio galaxies result from galactic explosions and are powered by ongoing supernovae explosions, mostly type 2. For the details, see reference 3, due to Larson's astrophysical masterpiece, The Universe of Motion. 14. Galactic structure. The conventional theorists have trouble explaining how galaxies can form, given that their Big Bang theory claims that the matter is dispersed in all directions at very high speeds, even above the speed of light in the inflationary part, away from the alleged point of the explosion. How could this eventually condense at various locations? Most conventional theorists say that the big things, like galaxies, came first. The usual suggestion is that there were fluctuations in the density of the dispersed matter, and so by probability there were some clumps of matter which then grew to form the stars and galaxies we now see. As for the globular clusters, the theorists say that they originated with the galaxies. Therefore, to them, the globular clusters are old. But the stars in globular clusters are mostly relatively new. And another thing, the theorists used to think that galaxy formation was finished many billions of years ago, but now there's solid observational evidence to the contrary. The reciprocal system says no to all the conventional theory. There was no Big Bang. The matter was not originally concentrated. It was initially widely dispersed. There is a gravitational limit of matter within which atoms attract one another to form dust particles and then eventually stars. Outside the gravitational limit, the matter moves apart due to the space-time progression. The first associations of stars are globular clusters, the individual stars of which are moving apart from one another but remaining together by the mass of the globular cluster as a whole. These then combine to form small galaxies, and the small galaxies then combine to form the big galaxies. Galaxy formation is a continuing process. See reference 21 for calculation of the gravitational limits and the Hubble constant for the local group of galaxies. 15. Cosmology and metaphysics. Conventional physicists think that our physical universe is on a one-way process, from the Big Bang to the formation of stars and galaxies, and then eventually to the running out of stellar fuel, which means the end of all stars. The final result is a totally cold, lifeless universe. Most conventional theorists also think that our physical universe is the total of all existence. I do think that there are a number of physical universes within a multiverse. Regardless, most believe there is no metaphysical reality. In contrast, the reciprocal system is a cyclical theory. Material galaxies end their lives in a huge explosion or explosions, creating quasars, whose matter eventually leaves our material sector for the cosmic or inverse sector. The material atoms transform to cosmic atoms, which eventually coalesce to form cosmic stars and cosmic globular clusters. These globular clusters combine to form small galaxies, which then combine to form large galaxies. These eventually end their lives in a huge explosion or explosions, creating cosmic quasars, whose matter eventually enters our material sector, isotropically. These are the cosmic rays. The whole cycle then repeats, etc. Given that the reciprocal system is a cyclical theory, we cannot say definitively whether or not there was a creation. If there were, we can speculate on the cause. In reciprocal system metaphysics, there is a region of existence, termed the metaphysical realm, which is comprised of non-space-time units. See the appendix for the postulates governing this realm. The proof that there is such a realm is that human beings are compound structures, part physical and part metaphysical. We are creative and ethical and intuitive, whereas a purely physical mechanism, like a machine or a plant or animal, is not creative or ethical or intuitive. It just does what it was designed to do or evolved to do, and no more. The physical universe is a physical mechanism. Although things are always changing in detail, there is no overall change. It is cyclical, and no new class of objects is created after the first cycle. Therefore, there must be a metaphysical realm discretized into units, which is the source of our creativity, our ethics, our intuition, and our status as observers. This realm is beyond space and time, and so there's no infinite regress. Conceivably, a portion of the non-space-time units transform to space-time units and displacements, photons, subatoms, atoms, both material and cosmic, to form our physical universe, and others of existence as a multiverse. The sum of the original non-space-time units equals, in some manner, the sum of the space-time units and displacements created. So there's no violation of a very generalized conservation law. Both the physical realm and the metaphysical realm are huge, but finite. The above speculation gets around the problem of the Big Bang theory and the M, or membrane theory, which has to explain where all the matter energy came from in the first place, and how it could all be concentrated into a point smaller than an atom. Conventional theories have many infinities and singularities. The reciprocal system does not. See reference 9 and reference 22. Conclusion. This paper provides a detailed refutation of many of the physical concepts of modern physics. Included are those from the conventional theories of space-time, photons, subatoms, atoms, atomic bonding, electric and thermal currents, capacitors, magnetism, stellar energy generation, stellar explosions, galactic structure, and cosmology and metaphysics. The reciprocal system of theory is shown to be a much more rational, logical paradigm for the physical universe and beyond. The reader should now be better prepared, the reader or viewer of this theory, should now be better prepared to comprehend reference 1 through reference 22. It's time for college and university professors to replace courses on modern physics with courses on the reciprocal system. Acknowledgements. Funding for this work came from Transpower Corporation, not the government. Of course, great thanks go to Dewey B. Larson, who served as my theoretical physics mentor from 1965 until his death in 1990. He was by far the most intelligent and most logical of any individual I've ever known. The references, you can see the first set here, 1 through 9, are Dewey B. Larson's books. Reference 10 is My Mysterious Universe. And then starting with reference 11 and 12, and the next page, these are my papers, all of which can be found at transpower.wordpress.com. Free PDFs. Reference 23 is the Chemical Properties Handbook by Professor Gillis. It's helpful having that for the empirical regression equations to compare with the theoretical calculations of the reciprocal system. Quantum mechanics is totally useless. And of course, reference 24 is Samuel Alexander's masterpiece Space-Time Deity, and 25 is Dr. Paykoff's work. Now let's go over the appendix here carefully. These are the postulates of the reciprocal system and the metaphysical realm. The first fundamental postulate. The physical universe is composed entirely of one component, space-time, or motion in the most general sense, existing in 3 dimensions, in discrete units, and with 2 reciprocal aspects, space and time. Second fundamental postulate. The physical universe conforms to the relations of ordinary commutative mathematics. Its magnitudes are absolute, and its geometry is Euclidean. Third fundamental postulate, which is implied. The physical universe is logical, orderly, and rational. Now for the metaphysical postulates. First metaphysical postulate. There are existences in the metaphysical region of a more general and less restricted type than the units of motion that are the basic constituents of the physical universe. Second metaphysical postulate. The metaphysical existences are logical, orderly, and rational. Third metaphysical postulate. Metaphysical existence conforms to a specific set of laws and principles, different in some respects from those of the physical universe. And the fourth metaphysical postulate is the metaphysical existences of which we have evidence are intelligent. Aristotelian logic, including the laws of identity and causality, apply to entities of both the physical universe and the metaphysical realm. There are no contradictions anywhere. The metaphysical units are non-space-time units. They are therefore beyond space and time. There is thus no infinite regress. That completes my paper, The Case Against Modern Physics.